Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids and we're back for some more Mardek, and we are going to continue on our way through the water temple here, see how far we can make it, and there are a few little tweaks I think we can make to our current lineup here, or at least more so our setup. We were seeing that there are definitely scenarios in which we're expecting to get some confusion, so if we could throw on clarity on any people, then I think that could probably be quite useful. So Mardek, I think getting rid of some HP and throwing on clarity for you would be helpful to at least have someone be immune to it. I'm not sure if anyone else does have that, though. Slinik got partway to mastering it, but did not finish. Okay, maybe that's enough. The other thing is that I think we have a couple of helmets here that we could definitely swap out. We have Slinik still using the kettle hat, which was probably our best hat back in Chapter 2, but we've definitely gotten some better ones since then, namely the scoping lens, allowing us to learn things like additional magic offensive reactions, or even the accuracy attack reaction, as well as the feather crest, or the other, more powerful, magic offensive reaction. So I think for both Mardek and Slinik, these things could be helpful because Slinik does have fire breath, which we haven't been using too much recently, but there could still be a reason for us to make a point of mastering this ability so that we can make that more powerful in the future. And also, this does affect, I believe, the amount that Mardek heals when he uses his healing abilities. At the moment, I think we'd find that we don't have any reactions we can use when we are using those skills, but if we were to, say, get 20% here and another 10% here, then that's certainly helpful, getting an additional 30% healing. So, yeah, I mean, if we can do it, then we probably should, right? So why don't we throw on, let's say, the scoping lens on Mardek for now, and the feather crest on Slinik? And we were also saying that maybe we might want to swap off the Regal Crown from Charla and put something else on instead. Not necessarily sure we have anything to replace this with. We're probably not going to master double gold with her like we were saying earlier, but it does at least give 1 defense, 1 magic defense, which by itself isn't that much, but a little bit of attributes across the board is slightly better than, say, the kettle hat was, which was just pure defense. Charla also just can't wear this, but to compare to what Slinik was using before. Okay. So, with that being said, let's carry on here. Oh, and perhaps equip some of those reactions that we just threw on here. As we were saying before, Mardek did not previously have access to any magic offensive reactions. I believe we would find the same thing for Slinik, so we'll try to swap those around once they're both finished with them. Slinik, it might be a while until you master this one because it's not so often, like we were saying, that you're using your fire breath, but maybe we'll make more of a point of it going forward. So now let's head up here. And I think what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to flip the blue switch, which, yes, we should have access to from this angle. But first, more water elementals. This is the first time we fought them outside of one of the quote-unquote scripted fights, if you want to call it that, with the craft chest of sorts. So, how do we want to approach this? We can probably just hit him with the lightning bolts here, because it's mostly going to be Gloria using some razor leaves to take care of them. Maybe that's reason to, say, throw in a fire breath, just to give Slinik the chance to get a little bit closer to mastering these offensive reactions of the spell variety. That being said, 0 damage is not going to do too much for us. Razor leaf, though, should have us covered. Actually, a water elemental, 2 water elementals at that, survived. Fortunately, opt to use water spells that we're more than capable of absorbing all the damage from, so no problems there. Mardek, you could also deliberately heal him, even though you don't really need to all that much, because now you do have a reaction as well. And Charla, is there anything you need to make a point of doing here? You're not done with mastering Gust Shield, so I suppose, although it's not terribly relevant in this fight, you can do it. Just getting close and master that as well. And Slinik, again, why don't we still fire breath? Then Gloria, your turn. Use Razor Leaf, and this, I assume, should definitely be enough here, but that's good to know that on some occasions, Gloria's Razor Leaf will not actually be enough to take them all out in one round. So we might want to try to find a way to boost her damage through spirits or other reactions. I'm pretty sure she has basically all the reactions that she can learn at this stage. Okay, so we flip this. Then let's go back to our main room of sorts. And I believe now we will be able to go back through one of the doors that we went through previously. That being the door down here. First, hold on. Some water drops. Those guys, I think we were able to take them both out with razor leafs pretty comfortably, so I'm not too concerned about having a repeat of what we saw in the previous fight. Might we still be able to take one out, though? If we were to, say, use Charlotte here, or is it just better off if we target the angry cods instead? Maybe we go that route. Almost enough to take them out at that. Very nearly. Fortunately, opts to use some spells that will heal us, so no problems there. And again with Slanik, might we find a way to squeeze in a fire breath? You could probably take out this angry cod here. Why don't we do that? Yup, still enough damage. So there is some use to it beyond just getting closer to mastering that offensive reaction. And then the razor leaf, this is the big thing we were waiting for. Don't think it's going to be enough to take out the cods, but it was most of the water drops we were concerned about because the cods, comparatively speaking, they're more straightforward. Okay, mana berries as well, not bad. So we'll head through here. Ooh, this is locked tight, but there's a keyhole. The right key? Be able to get through. Huh. Strange enough, we've not been able to go through there yet, I suppose. We'll be on the lookout for a key, so we'll go through this door instead, perhaps. And now I think we'll try to flip the turquoise switch here, which should be accessible at this stage. I believe it'll be this one. Okay. And now, we head back after this fight with the same types of enemies. Have we learned anything here? I think we probably are still just going to use the same approach we did last time. Seemed like that was reasonably effective. Almost enough damage, again, to take out one of those angry cods with Charlotte, but not quite. Gloria, are we concerned about how much damage you've taken? Not quite. I think we're gonna be okay. However, unfortunately, those angry cods did reduce her agility, meaning Gloria will now be slower than the water drops, and therefore the water drops will have the chance to take a turn here. So I don't think we've actually ever seen that happen before, because we've always taken them out before they go. Might that be reason enough to swap our strategy a bit here and deliberately target them with, say, Slanik? That being said, 90% fire resistance, using Fire Breath, not going to be terribly effective. Maybe Perforate, because it would reduce some of their defense, but that is still a lot of defense to break through. Can maybe give that a shot? Let's try it, see how much it works. This one down here technically has less HP, so that might be the way to go. And it is enough damage, yeah. So Mardek, however, I think you're going to find it much more difficult to break through those defenses, so it's probably best if you do take out one of the angry cods instead. Water Drop will take a turn then, and fortunately, just attacks everyone with a water spell that we can all heal from, so no issues there. Now Gloria gets to go, and now Gloria can take some people out. Most notably the Water Drop, and then Charla. Here on out, Lightning Bolt should be fine. And Gloria levels up as well. And I'm not sure if she would have gotten an RP from that one or not. We'll have to double check. Let's take a look. So, I mean, she definitely does not need more RP for many physical things. For magic stuff, she is doing fine there. Yeah, not anything new, even if she did gain an RP, that she'd be able to equip now, so not a huge deal this time, it would seem. So let's keep on moving in that case. We'll head on back, and now, if we look at our map, we'll find that we were not previously able to go through this door to the bottom right. This was originally blocked by, I believe it was the white wall, and so now we can go through there. Maybe, I don't know, how much damage have we taken? Is it worth, say, just making a point to go into the healing crystal? Not that much damage, although we've blown through a fair bit of our MP. Again, Slanik just has so little MP. So, sure, why don't we do that? And I suppose we can check on the Miasmal Chalice, see how far along we are with that. And we are 52% of the way there, so not bad. Seems like we probably do still have a ways to go through the Water Temple because, well, we haven't even been through several of these doors at least, so shouldn't be too much of an issue getting that Miasmal Chalice in the hopefully not so distant future. Now we'll head this way, and this looks a little different. Doesn't look as temple-like. It said, what, Crystal Cave? Okay, sure, there are 3 chests in here as well, so try to pick those up. These aren't, say, chests themselves, are they? Though exquisitely beautiful, this crystal formation is of no use to you. Oh, okay. Well, here's one of those chests. Mind crystal. We have seen plenty of these before, but I suppose not the worst thing to pick up a spare. Then, what else? More enemies. Are they the same as the types of enemies we've found before? I think so, for the most part. Axolotls we have seen in the actual temple proper. So, as for how we approach this, though, the axolotl chief does not have any air weakness. However, the normal axolotls actually do. So, might that be reason for Charlotte to, say, deliberately try to hit everyone with not a healing wind, a lightning bolt? Let's give this a shot. However, still not that much damage. Slinik with the fire breath? How does that look? No fire resistance for anyone, and no magic defense either. So that could work. I'm not sure it's going to be enough damage per se, though. Probably more capable of taking someone out with a perforate. So why don't we try going that route instead? I don't know if we'll have enough damage to take out the axolotl chief, but maybe one of the lessers. Well, it almost would have been enough to take out the axolotl chief. So let's go with a razor leaf. This is the primary way we're going to damage them. However, truth be told, not as much damage as I would have expected. Fortunately, if they use bubble breath, that's definitely not a concern, even if we miss the reaction. And then Mardek. And you've got to be able to take out this axolotl, right? Yeah. Then Charla, if you were to just attack one, what would our preference be? Do we want a lightning bolt? Do we want to use a physical attack? In fact, tell you what, both Slinik and Gloria do go before the axolotl chief. But I think you're probably safe to say sneak in another just shield. Not sure who needs it most, but I don't think anyone's going to have a chance to get attacked, because we should be taking out this axolotl chief before it next goes, so if we say use a perforate here, yeah, that's more than enough. So it doesn't really matter who we apply the shield to, just put it on Mardek, because that gives the most experience. Another bone axe, in case we didn't have enough. And let's take another look at our map here. Seems like this up here is a chest? I don't know. Let's grab this one. It's a mirror elixir, so again, applies both a physical and magical shield in one round. So that's useful. And then the last chest is, well, supposedly that crystal up there, but hold on just a second. Some more water drops and angry cods. Yes, this definitely seems like the types of enemies we'll encounter here are the same types of enemies we would see in the normal part of the temple. And it still is not quite enough damage from Charlotte to take one of these guys out. I was wondering if maybe we would eventually hit the high end of the range of her damage and it would have just barely done the trick, but not that time, unfortunately. Now, Slinik, you can get rid of one of those water drops with the perforate. However, I think we could probably fire breath the angry cod to get close to mastering this. And it is also enough for Mardek to level up. That's level 30 for him. That might mean more RP as well. And definitely time for a razor leaf here. This time we'll take out the water drops before they get the chance to go. And Mardek, you can probably finish off the cod. Yep. Okay. So, then this is odd. The last chest is this? I don't know. I'm a little suspicious. And rightfully so. It is, in fact, a mini-boss of sorts. And I missed the reaction there, and that's not good. Because that hurt. In fact, so much so that it took out Gloria. So, let's take a look here at the Master Stone. 5,000 life, which compared to the security demon we were fighting a while ago is nowhere near as much HP, but 30s across the board in terms of attributes, so it definitely beat us to the punch in terms of agility, and very resistant to just about everything except for Fig. It is Ether Elemental, and again, we haven't seen too many enemies that are Ether Elemental, so that's a little bit strange, and we want to make a point to bring Gloria back right about now. That seems like that's probably worthwhile, so let's do it. It does have haste, notably, so it will go twice in a row after Mardek. So we should bear that in mind. We could perhaps hit it with a perforate? what's its defense look like? 20? That could be helpful, assuming this will be a bit of a longer fight. So, lowering its defense? Sure, let's give this a shot. 0 damage, but it does lower defense by 5, so in the future, should be more possible for Slinik and also Mardek to deal damage to it. Does it have 100% resistance to non-elemental attacks? Yeah, it does, so we should have seen that one coming. But that was the primary reason we did it. Okay, let's go with, I guess, either Razor Leaf or Whirlpool. Is there a reason to use one over the other? They are the same in terms of their effectiveness, so I suppose we could use Whirlpool, because Gloria still needs to master it. Let's give this a go. 24 damage is not a lot, -1 Spirit, though. Does theoretically mean that the Master Stone will be dealing a little less damage with spells, so that might be helpful. And Mardek, I mean, people are pretty hurt right now, so it probably does make sense for you to heal here. However, not that much healing. It shifts to Air Elemental, notably. So that was interesting. Take a look here. It is now, yes, an Air Elemental enemy, and notably its defenses have shifted as well. So it is now very resistant to air, will heal to air, and it is extremely resistant to everything else except for fire. So, what if we say we're to, well, we don't want to attack with Charlotte, at least not any of this stuff here. We could heal again with Charlotte this time, and that's probably worthwhile. That would mean that Mardek might be more able to use other support abilities like throw it on shields or magic shields. And Slinik with a fire breath, I think that is definitely the way we want to deal damage right now, because fire is, of course, what it's most weak to at the moment. What about its status immunities? It has none, so if we were to, say, use a similar strategy to what we used against the security demon and were able to inflict a poison, then that could be quite useful. I'm just not sure we have much in the way of ways to do that right now. So, the other thing is, for elements that Gloria can do, those being water or earth, it's 100% resistant to both of those. So, Gloria can't do too much here, which means probably makes sense for you to, say, put on a bark skin, which gives bonus defense. I'm not sure this Master Stone's going to be doing much in the way of physical attacks, though, so is there anything else we might be able to do? Whirlpool does still lower Spirit, so we'll deal less damage with spells. That might be helpful. Similarly, lowering Vitality, maybe, with Razor Leaf. Let's go with Whirlpool, again, because we have not yet mastered it, so there's also that reason to do it. -1 Spirit is still not a lot, but it's maybe a small difference maker. And for Mardek, it seems like Magic Shield is probably the way to go, because this guy seems to be using possibly exclusively magic abilities there, and Gloria seems to be the most vulnerable. Elemental Shift, and it is back to Ether this time, and it did hit everyone with a Gem Explosion. It seems as though that's the general pattern it's going to have, is in its first turn, it's going to shift elements, and then in the second turn, it's going to use a Gem Explosion. And that Gem Explosion element is going to be based on whatever element it switches over to. So, we did, of course, take a lot of damage there, because we don't have a lot in the way of Ether resistances. So that does mean we're going to want to heal again. Let's take a look at who we want to attack with this time. And the answer is, well, arguably Mardek, because it does have light resistance as its lowest right now. Other than that, it's going to be a little bit of damage from almost anyone, but no obvious correct answer here. So I think maybe we take this opportunity again with Charlotte to heal. She does have higher Spirit, although she's a lower level, so in terms of how much she would heal relative to Mardek, it's probably pretty close. I think they were both in the upper 200s. And then Slinik, it might make sense for you to perforate again. It will, of course, deal 0 damage, because I think this was the exact scenario in which we did it previously, and yes, you did have 100% non-elemental resistance, so it's an investment in the future, but I think it is probably still worthwhile. Oh, just -1 defense, though. That is unfortunate to get the low end of that range. Then, similar story with Gloria. I guess you could even put on Null Water or Null Earth in anticipation of the Master Stone maybe switching over to those elements. Let's give that a shot. So we'll go with Water first, because Gloria does still need to master that. And we'll see, once Mardek goes, whether that is the element that the Master Stone switches to. But for Mardek, Slinik does still need a heal. Might we want to put on a Magic Shield for Slinik? I think that might actually be preferable. Get out ahead of that. And it switches, yes, to water. So we lucked out there. Nulled everything, so not sure we'll be that lucky again, but we could perhaps null air in anticipation of that potentiality. Let's give that a shot. And then that does probably mean that, well, Mardek, you may still want to make a point of healing Slinik, but no one else took damage this previous turn. No one took damage this previous turn, so you're probably okay still. Notably, Slinik has run out of MP, so can't use Fire Breath or Perforate. And as a water elemental Master Stone now, we're looking at someone who is weak to Earth. That would mean that Gloria probably would be the best person to attack here. As for Slinik, you take a turn to restore some NP with something like an Ether, or ideally a Mana Berry, because you don't need as much MP as Nether would give you. Yeah, that might be best, or use an item to heal. Let's use the Mana Berry, I think. And then Gloria, now you go with the Razor Leaf. And we could do this for offensive reasons. We could also, say, throw on another Null Water or Null Earth. But I think that is largely a guessing game, whereas the Razor Leaf, we know this is a good time to do it. So let's make a point of doing it here. And Mardek, you either heal Slinik, or maybe even the whole party, or continue to apply the magic shields. Almost everyone has a magic shield at this point. I think it's just Sharla and yourself. Let's throw one on Sharla. She is less HP than you. Shifting to light, actually, so we could have considered putting on a morality block for Mardek. That would have prevented that damage, but I guess that's interesting to see that that is also possible. It could go light, or I assume also dark. However, this is a tough one. Mardek deals light damage, so that's definitely a no-go this time. Everything else, 100% resistance, so not sure if we can deal much of any damage right now. That means that it probably makes sense to either null air once with Sharla, or heal. And let's go with healing, because I think morality block is probably still better with Mardek, because it gives us 2 nulls, whereas null air once only nulls just one element, air. So if we had to pick between the two, I think we'd prefer having Mardek put on the nulls. And then, do we perforate again? I think that might still be the answer. We're going to blow through Slinik's MP very quickly here, but -4 defense this time. What is the Master Stone at now? 10, which is still somewhat high, but hopefully now getting to the point where normal attacks with Slinik or Mardek could still deal some damage. And so, similar story with Gloria with the nulls. Seems like that's probably going to be either a water or an earth snare. We're going to have to guess because Whirlpool and Razor Leaf aren't going to do much of anything here. We could also be healing with Gloria as well. I forgot about that. Let's go with Earth. We haven't seen it yet. Not sure that necessarily means we're more likely to find it here, but we'll throw it on. And Mardek, you could put on a magic shield for yourself. I think we probably do that. And then afterward, well, I suppose we could have put on the null morality block. Because, well, it goes dark here, and so it would have been very convenient. Fortunately, Sharla actually did have the dark jacket on, so she healed from that. And it seems like other people may have had some stuff with dark resistance. Gloria has a little bit. Slinik does not. Mardek has a tiny bit as well, although he may have a magic dark reaction. So I think, overall, that was one of the better elements that it could have swapped over to. And Sharla, this time around, yeah, why don't you null air? And because we didn't use the null that Gloria put on, it might be worthwhile for us to use Gloria to put on null water this time. Because again, this is one of those scenarios where we're not going to find that this guy is really going to take much damage from us. We could continue to perforate with Slinik. Sure. This time, -5 defense, that might be the maximum we can get in one turn, so it should be down to just 5 defense now, which is getting to the point where it's not very significant at all, so hopefully we'll find that your generic physical attacks will be pretty effective. So here we could either null water once, so we don't have that active at the moment, or we could use this as an opportunity to heal. How necessary does that seem right now? Slinik is pretty low, but everyone else has a magic shield and has at least 500 HP. So I think we're actually doing okay in that regard. Slinik, well, if you get hit by air, earth, or water, then you're still okay. Might still be fine, even with, well, say we put on morality blocks too. And we have almost all of our bases covered. Fire, I think, is pretty much the only thing, that and Ether, that could damage you here. So we'll see what happens. Goes to light, and so there should be 0 damage here. So we did put on the null. Okay, so no problems that time. That means that Mardek is the one who's going to want to reapply the nulls, but everyone else is free to, say, put on things like healing or other sources of damage. But the problem with the Master Stone going light or dark is that, well, you can't really deal any damage. You do very much want it to go to a different element. That's a little bit of healing there, not a ton. Slinick, keep on perforating though, and at this point, Master Stone I think is at 2 defense, so that's basically nothing at this point. And so we could also, because Gloria has now put on both Null Water and Null Earth, and those are still active for everyone, use a Whirlpool, again, just for the sake of lowering the Spirit. That might be okay here. Get close to mastering it too, it's still just -1, unfortunately. But we are, at least in theory, lowering its damage a little bit in that way. And Mardek probably does make sense for you to Morality block again, and that way, even if we do get it to go light once more, assuming it's not going to stay the same element, but we're ready if it does do that. Goes to Ether, and that's not what we want to see. So we don't have any way of nulling that, but the magic shields, that does help. So we... Oh, however, I've been going pretty aggressive on the spells, of course, and Charlotte is out of MP. Ether probably does make sense for you, so you have a lot of MP. Okay, and then Slinick, and one more Perforate, probably do the trick here. Get you down to 0 shield, 0 defense, and yes, that is the case now, I believe. We can double check. Yes. So in theory, at least if the element is right, then we could still deal some damage here, but, well, yeah, it's still pretty resistant to almost everything in this form. So I think, again, we probably use a Whirlpool here, or even a heal. Yeah, I think we heal, actually. Get everyone healed a bit, because Slinick in particular needs it. We didn't take too much damage from the previous round with our shields, but let's make sure we're not ever in a dire need of a heal. And Gloria, as well, is starting to drop a little bit low on MP. Mardek does not need to put on any more of the morality blocks, and also has put on Magic Shield for everyone, so we're fine there. We could put on Regen, even, for a more consistent form of healing. That might even be worthwhile on someone like Slinick. That way, Slinick is consistently healing every turn, and we don't have to worry as much about applying those heals. Let's give that a shot. But I think that, theoretically, Light was the most effective element we could have used there, so it might have been worth trying to attack. As unlike with the Security Demon fight, where we could just continue to wait turn after turn, we aren't dealing any damage with poison. So, yes, we are playing the attrition game here, but we need some form of damage to go along with it. So, not one of those noxious bombs, at least on Charla. She used it in that fight, of course. But this time round, we did, of course, use our Null Dark that time. With Dark Elemental, I think it's the Dark and the Light that are most difficult to break through. So on this occasion, what do we want to do? We could boost defense, but that's not really going to do much for us. We could heal again. That's probably best. Another way to get people close to maximum HP, and to tell you the truth, we really only need to put it on Slinick, so it would have been better to do a targeted heal on just them. Slinick, I think now, after all those perforates, using a physical attack is probably the best way to go. It's not going to be terribly effective this time, because I'm pretty sure Master Stone, yes, has 100% resistance to physical elements, but, well, we crit! Gave it a shot, and, similar story with Gloria, I think. Bark Skin, again, not terribly useful. We could Whirlpool just for the sake of lowering Spirit. Let's do that. -1 Spirit again. It'll add up eventually, though. Like, at this point, we've done, what? -4 Spirit, which is something. Could be lowering its damage. At least a somewhat noticeable amount. And Mardek, we do want to put on the Morality block again, because we did have to use the Null Dark. It's shifting. Back to Light. Again, not an element we really want to see here. But if we were to, say, use something like, I don't know, how about a Lightning Bolt against it? Let's just see what this does. We'll hit it with that. Of course, deal 0 damage. But maybe we take a turn or two to restore some MP, do any other healing we might need to do, and Slinic is pretty low now, but I think for the most part, outside of the Fire Breath, we're not going to need to use MP on you all that often. So maybe we use an Ether on Gloria, who's more likely to need it going forward, or even Mardek, even more so. Gloria is next, and similarly, could use a Whirlpool again to just lower some of your spirit. Just keep on whittling away at it. That way, even if it does use some kind of element that we're not having a null for, like fire, it still won't do too much damage. Mardek, you could continue to put on regen for other people as well. Or let's take a look at whether you have, say, a Noxious Bomb. You do. I think this is worthwhile. Let's throw this on. And it does blind and confuse and poison, so that is key, because it will now take damage every turn. And it is also asleep, I believe, so it did not take a turn at all that time. So now we can actually play the attrition game for real this time, and have that poison deal the damage for us. So that is very useful. Master Stone, however, is still light elemental, which is unfortunate. We could heal again, but that's not terribly relevant. Could agility boost someone? Not sure that's very relevant either. What are your items looking like, Charla? We could throw on a damage-dealing potion, but even that doesn't help us very much. Yeah, Charla, you could throw on a Mana Berry on, say, yourself, or Gloria, probably, more like. Just prepare for when the Master Stone is in a better state for us to deal damage to it. And same thing for Clinic here. I don't think there's much for you to do. We'll just throw it in an attack. Oh, except it removed several statuses that we wanted it to have, so that was a mistake of sorts. Pretty sure, yes, hitting it with attacks is one way to remove statuses, and it is still blinded, which is not going to be terribly relevant because it's not going to use physical attacks, so it's not like it's going to be less likely to hit us, but the poison is still there, so that is good. However, I suppose with it not asleep anymore, it's more likely to actually switch elements, so maybe in some ways that is still a little bit beneficial. So we don't need any of the nulls from Gloria. We'll need the Whirlpool. Getting close to mastering it now. Again, -1 spirit. And Mardek, you put on a regen on somebody here. I suppose you have the most HP, so theoretically it would do the most for you. But everyone else is at full HP, so not terribly relevant now. Okay, it shifts over to air. We have nulled, of course. But I think that is key, because that means that now Slinic can deal damage with Fire Breath. And Charla, you can put that null back on. It's been a long time since it last picked an element that we could actually deal damage to. And so, let's do it here. 700 damage, that's not bad. Compare that to the 0 damage we were dealing for a while. And then I think, can we deal any damage at all with water? We can't, but again, we could just continue to go over its spirit, so sure. We'll do it. And then Mardek is next, and again, we don't have much of a need for you to do anything here, so we could throw on a regen for the sake of throwing on a regen. Put it on Charla here. This time it switches to water. Okay, so we won't want to use Gloria's water ability this time around, at least. And that does mean that Earth will be the way to go, and fortunately, Gloria does have Razor Leaf as well, so no issues there. And Charla, do we have anything in particular that we need from you? I'm not sure we do. Because we didn't take any damage from there. From that previous spell, we did, of course, have the nulls on, so are there any items we really need? Slinic is pretty low on MP right now. We could, say, use a Mana Berry to restore some of that, but I think we're getting pretty close to being done here, so that may not be necessary. I think we might just want to pass. And Slinic, you could use a physical attack. Does it have 100% resistance to physical damage? Yes, it does, so it's not going to do anything for you. Again, could theoretically use Ether, something of that sort, but I think for the most part, we just don't really need to, so let's pass. And then Gloria, you are the one we really need here. You'll use Razor Leaf. That will help. 600 or so damage, and the poison will also deal damage too. So there's that. Does it have 100% resistance to light? It does. So unfortunately, Mardek still cannot deal damage himself. We'll throw on our last regen here. Now everyone has it, and it will shift to air again. which means that, well, Slinik is the person we're going to want to have here, which is a little bit unfortunate because I'm not sure if he has enough MP to use Fire Breath right now. It might cost 8 to use, in which case I'd rather not have to use an Ether, just to have him use one skill. In fact, Master Stone is on 91 life right now, so we could just pass across the board, and that would do the trick. So like say if we just passed across the board and watched it slowly wither away to poison. There we go! So yes, that is the Master Stone fight. It can be quite tricky, because it is mechanically very different from any other fight we've had. However, it gives us both the Crystal Rose, which is the last ingredient that we need to bring the soul from the soul plane to the metal body that Peridor created, and also Candorethop, which is another very valuable crafting item. So that's great. Got a bunch of skills mastered here, mostly magic, defense, and offense, so that's helpful too. And I think this is probably a good place for us to wrap up here, because I think that what we actually want to do now is we're going to put things in the Water Temple on pause, and then we will make a point, now that we've picked up everything that we need to pick up, to complete the Metal Man quest, that we'll do that. So I'll see you next time.